Hi everybody, it's Kristin, and I am going to do a Throwback Thursday or Flashback Friday. I'm not really sure. Might be on a Saturday. I might have to come up with a whole other name for it. I don't know. Just kind of the way things are going. This is the first video I filmed in quite some time. I had a bunch that I had sort of pre-recorded while I was traveling for work, and I got back and shockingly enough promptly got a sinus infection. So I am just hanging on till my surgery at the end of the month, and hopefully this will be the last sinus infection that I am dealing with. So I kind of felt like I had rejoined the land of the living this morning. And because of that, I decided I was going to go ahead and film this video. So if you are new to this sort of video, this is a video where I go back and take a look at my favorites from I do 2 years ago. And I will use those products if I still have them, and I come and talk to you about whether they are still my favorites and that sort of thing. And by the way, if there's a little bit of weird kind of choppy editing, it's just me stopping to take a drink and not cough on camera. So I really enjoyed these products. A lot of these products still are absolutely some of my favorites. Some are ones I haven't used before. And I'm working kind of on my blush declutter. I've talked about that before. And there are some blushes in here that both have made the cut on two different blush declutters. So the first one is the Estee Lauder, and this is old packaging. I believe it comes in the new blue packaging now. This is the Lover, I can never remember. Lovers blush. So it looks like that. This is just a really pretty everyday go-to blush, and I still love this blush. This is not the one that I'm wearing today. There's one later on the list that is an even longer time favorite than this one that I'm wearing. So I do still really like that. I think that the formula on the Estee Lauder blushes, and I've not tried them again, like I said, in the new packaging, but from what I understand, it's the same formula, just new packaging. They last really long time. They blend nicely into the skin. It's probably the number one thing for me with a blush, whether I like it or not, is it really has to, without a lot of work, blend into my skin and really look nice. Obviously, we want it to look nice, but not patchy. I don't want to have to deal with any patchiness. Okay, the next thing was some highlighters. I had the Balm Mary Luminizer, and I've talked about this a bunch. I'm going to talk about the other one, and then we're going to have a little discussion. So there's that one. I'm going to put a little swatch of that here. I can't tell you how many times this has shown up in my favorites. This not only is nice as a highlight, it's also really nice as a lid color. So if you have a palette that doesn't have a really nice sort of kind of bright lid color, try this as a lid color. And then the other one that I talked about was the Hard Candy Bronzer in Tiki, which really is more of a highlight, and that is this. And I do really like this. However, I just have not used it. So there's the Balm and there's Tiki. It is a very light highlighter. It's not so much kabam and in your face. And I know that Tiki is much less expensive than this, but my go-to for a couple of years now when I'm looking for that sort of shade is this is the Becca, and this is the one in Moonstone. I've talked about this quite a lot. This is the only one that I had for a long time. And you can see these are all kind of in that same sort of champagne. That's the Moonstone up there. I think it's something about my skin tone and that sort of thing, and the texture of the Becca versus the Tiki and that sort of thing. So lots of people really, really like this, and I don't dislike it, but I have this in my collection, and when I'm going for that sort of a shade of a highlight, then I will go for this one. I did use the Hard Candy today though, so you can kind of see what it looks like. It's just not my favorite anymore. I really prefer that Moonstone, so that's what these videos are all about. Highlights are something I need to do a declutter on at some point as well. Okay, the next thing, and it has to do with highlight, and it just made me happy to see that I've loved this for a couple of years now. This is the EcoTools fan brush. Whenever somebody asks me what, you know, a reasonable brush is, or actually not even reasonable, what my favorite brush to apply highlight with is, it's the EcoTools Deluxe Fan Brush. It's thicker than a normal fan brush, you know, than most of them. Like, where did I put that? Oh, I think it's out to be washed. The Crown one we got in the BoxyCharm. I like those thin ones, but I don't know. I just feel like, believe it or not, even though it's bigger, I feel like I have a little more control of where I'm placing and blending with this bigger one than I do with those thinner ones. So I still love this. This was in my brushes. I packed this. This travels with me. I love this brush. I use it every single day. So that one is absolutely still a favorite. All right, the next one, this is so funny. So it was the Bourjois Healthy Mix in shade number 52. Check the bottle to make sure that was the shade I got, and it was. So this is not that one. That was 2 years ago, and I had used that up because I loved it so much. And if you remember recently, well, in the fall, I was in Canada for a sales meeting, and when we went into Shoppers, I think it was Shoppers maybe. I saw Bourjois and I was so excited that I purchased it. So I hadn't used it yet and I went ahead and used it today. I just love the finish of this foundation, the longevity, this color, the shade 52. Vanilla is the name of it. It matches really well with my skin. I really like this. It says healthy glow and flawless complexion, and it really works so well. So if you are able to get this, I think I remember finding it at maybe ASOS or Sears or something like that, believe it or not, when I talked about it in that video. So I will link, if I can find something, I will link it for you. But if you're in Canada or someplace else where you have access to Bourjois, try that if you like to have a little bit of a glow, some nice longevity, and some good coverage. The next thing on there was the e.l.f. Daily Moisture Stick. And what I talked about, I had to watch the video because I was like, I don't remember using that. So I watched the video back, and what I was using it for makes total sense. And right now I could use it, is I was using it on my nose as kind of an extra moisture, because my nose is the thing that gets the most dry in the winter. So I was putting it on there, and then I was putting a little more foundation over it to add some extra moisture. But I don't have that anymore. I don't know if I decided it had gone bad, if I wasn't using it. I don't know, but I searched my collection and I don't remember the last time I used it. So it must have been a short love, and I don't love it anymore. I know there are other people that really like it, but I do not. The next thing was the F86 from Sigma, or any sort of, and I don't have that one anymore. I don't think. This is the tapered kabuki from Beauty Junkies. But any sort of brush like this is what I was saying, because there are tons of dupes for that particular brush out there. So I was liking this for concealer under my eyes, for blending at my hairline and that sort of thing. And while I remember liking it and using it for a long time, I really have switched over and much prefer this, which is a less expensive option. This is the e.l.f. Flawless Concealer Brush. I've talked about this a bunch. Sorry, I was pulling it against the wood so you can't see it. I think this is $3 or something like that. There's just something about this brush that works really well for almost any concealer. And I will say that at the time I think I was using the MAC Pro Longwear concealer, and I do still have that. It's one of my favorites. And when I go back to that, I may switch back to that brush. But I really feel like, depending on the type of concealer you're using, that will determine the type of brush that works well with it, or fingers, or whatever you like. But for most of the concealers that I have in my collection right now, I like the e.l.f. Flawless Concealer better than that one. So that is one that has changed. The next brush that I talked about is at the time was called the Wayne Goss Holiday Brush, and now it's the Wayne Goss 00 brush, and that looks like this. It's a tapered powder brush. I just talked about this not that long ago. I don't remember in what video, but I really like this brush. My only complaint with this brush is that it still bleeds after 2 years. It still bleeds. So I have to be really careful when I wash it and dry it to make sure that I get, all of that off. So I've not had before, not with this brush, but I have had with a MAC brush before, where some of that dye will actually transfer to my face, which is very odd. But anyway, love this brush. I think aside from the brush that I talked about in my 2016 fails, I love every single one of my Wayne Goss brushes. I really do. I have a ton of them now. Well, not a ton of them. I have a good amount of them now. I talked about in that video that I only had a couple of Goss brushes, so it didn't really make sense for me to do a video on them. I do have more now, so if you're interested in seeing a Goss brush video, I would absolutely do that if you would like to see that. So anyway, still love that, absolutely. Hands down, still a favorite. I have my sheet in front of me in case you're wondering why I keep looking that way. The next thing was something I had completely forgot about, and I used it today, and I am surprised it is still pretty creamy. Not really creamy enough, quite frankly, but let's talk about it. So it's the Marcelle Luxe Cream Eyeshadow, and it was in Taupe de Jour, I think, or something like that. Taupe de Jour, which, if I remember correctly, means taupe of the day. Why wouldn't I have something named the taupe of the day? So this is a shadow stick that and I use this today as a base on my eyes. And you can see it's still pretty creamy. You can kind of see how it balls up just a little bit. And it did not used to do that. It used to be much creamier than it is now. But it's 2 years old. It's not the fault of the product. It's the fault of the girl with way too many shadow sticks. So I want to talk about that for just a minute. That is something that I don't really buy anymore. I have a ton of shadow sticks, and that's also something that I intend to work on decluttering this year. I love the idea of a shadow stick. I have used them tons before, but I just don't use them anymore. I don't know. It's very strange. This is my shadow stick thing. So I have plenty of shadow sticks, and like I said, especially for a really easy eye, but I think more often than not, I'm not doing just a really easy eye. I like to do a little bit more. It's you know, kind of my time of the day. My makeup is my time of the day, and I enjoy going through the process. And while it's nice to have an easy eye option, I can accomplish the same thing with one shadow generally that I used to do all the time with a shadow stick. So let's just talk about this for a second. Let's bring it together. So this is still creamy. Not as creamy as it once was, but it's still pretty creamy. And I was able to use it, you know, on my eyes without a problem. So I think that the product itself is great. And remembered that carefully while applying today, is that it's set fairly quickly. So you can apply it, blend it out a little bit, and then it will set. Then it works well on its own, or to layer things over the top of it. So Marcelle is something that's sold, I believe, only in Canada. I think sometimes it shows up on Haute Look, if I remember correctly. But at any rate, if you have access to this and this product still exists, it's very nice, very, very nice. So I do like that. And then, you know, in regard to shadow sticks in general, I just am going to try to declutter some of these and not buy anymore. That's what that whole discussion was about. Good Lord. You can tell I haven't filmed in a while because I'm extra chatty. All right, the next thing was one of my longtime favorite single shadows of life, and this is by NARS, and it's in Ashes to Ashes. So I was having a taupe love day. Not that I don't all the time, but you guys have to admit, I really have tried to not do all taupes. I mean, look at that. Whew. I love that. So this is this NARS eyeshadow compared to some other ones. I find it to be a little bit, and I hope this makes sense, lighter and fluffier, if that makes any sort of sense. So when you put it on the eye, it's very easy to do as a kind of a one shadow look. But if you want it to have some oomph and a little more impact, I like to put some sort of base underneath it. So like I did with the Marcelle today, but I love this. I smashed one of these, and these are not cheap. So I think this is $28 or something like that. I smashed one of these. I had depotted it, and then I did something to it anyway, and I repurchased it right away because I like it so much. It's been a long time since I've used it, probably 6 months or so, but whew, I do love it. I really very much love it. My next favorite that month was the Lorac Unzipped palette. This has been, you know, in my favorites and out of my favorites so many times. So I did use, goodness you guys with the coffee, I did use this today in addition to that NARS. So in case you are curious, I used Unconditional in the crease, and then I used Unbridled right here in the outer corner and blended that in, and I used that in the outer corner beneath my lower lash line, and then the Ashes to Ashes on my inner lash line. I love this. If you like warm shades, which seem to be all the rage, and you like kind of bronzy shades, and you haven't tried this, you really have to give it a shot. I just love this. It's just by far one of my favorite palettes of all time. It's one I will always, always have in my collection. I really like that a lot, so clearly that is still a favorite. Okay, so speaking of Lorac, I mean, some of you have been around since the very beginning, and so you've heard me talk about this blush over and over and over again. Now, it's probably been a couple of months since I've worn this, but I still wear this blush a lot. This is by Lorac, so it's in this packaging. This came in a kit at some point way back when, like when I started my channel. That's how long I've had this. And it's the blush in Soul. It is what I'm wearing today. It still works really well. There's no issue with it. It is I tend to now wear it more in the fall and winter. Sorry, you can see that thing underneath it, but it's just stunning. They don't have this anymore. I think they've changed their formula twice since this blush. I don't know if you can find it anywhere, but I did want to still go ahead and mention it, and I just love this blush. If you still have this and you're wearing it, you need to tell me that I'm not alone. And whoops, I'm telling you guys, it's been probably 5-6 years. At what point does one throw out a powder blush? It still works fine. Oh, buddy. All right, the next thing is the Anastasia Brow Wiz in dark brown. That was apparently the first time that I fell in love with that product, and I do still like it. I am working through some of the other pencils that I have, but I will say this. I do still like that, but I think last year when I got a sample of this product, I purchased it in full size, I think I like this product just a little bit more. Now, this is not what I'm wearing on my eyes today because I still had a little bit of the IT Cosmetics brow powder to use, but when I was traveling, I was concerned it would run out while I was traveling, so I opened this up. And this is the Goof Proof. I have the shade in number 3. And this kind of has that, I'm not sure how to show you here. It kind of has that different sort of shape to it, so not quite a point. And I don't know, I find that it works just a little bit better. I still like, on occasion, to have that little point maybe here and there, but I'm not going to have 2 brow pencils. You know, my goal is to get down to 1. I'll try others, but my goal is to get down to 1. So I do have a few in my collection, but my collection is way... So anyway, I am... I'm not looking to have about 800 brow pencils. And I just want to have 1, like I said. I don't want to have to use 2 at the same time. Anyway, I would say the Anastasia Brow Wiz is not my complete favorite of all time, and right now the Benefit Goof Proof is. That was the point of that. Okay, so the next thing is the lipstick that I'm wearing today. This has been a favorite of mine for a very, very, very long time. And this is the old one. They have redone this, and I actually have a sample of that, so I will show you. So this is Chanel Mademoiselle, and you can see how much I have been... I don't know, I'm scared to use it up, but I don't know why, because the new one seems to be very similar. So this has been a favorite of mine for, you know, I think it was a revisited favorite in that video. So I'm going to put a swatch of it here. It is what I'm wearing on my lips, but there is a reason I'm putting it on my hand here. So that's what it looks like. I just love this formula, and back then it was called Rouge Cocoa. And it is still called Rouge Cocoa, but now they also call it Hydrating Cream Lip Color. So at some point I placed an order with Chanel, and I was able to get a sample of it in the new one in a little mini size. So I was going to show you guys. The color is very similar. It's just a hint different, and I feel like this one has just a little bit less of a sheen. So this is the original, and that's the new one. So for all intents and purposes, it's going to look like the same shade on your lips. Like I said, it's just a little bit different. I feel like the original has a little more kind of pink brownie to it than this one does, but at any rate, I love this. And so I have to say, I've decided, since that was 2 years ago, this still smells just fine. There's no issue with it. You know, usually lip products, after a couple years, I'm like, okay, we need to move on and be done with it. But so I'm pulling this out, and I'm going to add this to my use up list. I love it, so it shouldn't be hard to use it. It's going to make me sad, but it needs to be used. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of one of those catch-22 things. There, I did talk about this flower nail polish in Lavendare You. I totally forgot about this polish. Hadn't thought about it in forever. I mean, it's up in my racks, but I hadn't thought about it in forever. So I don't know. It's a really pretty kind of white pink with some lavender in it. It has that very, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see, very kind of minute sort of pink shimmer in there. It's very, very pretty. So I've just done more gels on my nails than I've done regular polish, so I haven't worn it in forever. All right, this last one is so funny to me. So this is, normally I don't revisit my fails, but I have to revisit this one, and you'll know why if you follow along. So the fail was the Colourpop shade in Amaze. And do you remember how I've been talking about how the Colourpop shade in Amaze was my favorite until about a month and a half ago, when I realized the one that I liked was the shade in Lala, not in Amaze? Well, this is the point at which I must have gotten myself confused. So I don't have that shade in Amaze anymore. I had gotten rid of like 6 of the Colourpop shades that I had tried back then, and I do have 6 more. And by the way, I will absolutely do a tutorial on the look that I wore in my top 5 surprises when I was wearing those shades, and I had a bunch of you ask for it, so I'm going to try to do that this, hopefully this week yet. I'm gone this weekend, but anyway. So I just want to say that the shade that I ended up loving, I just wanted to revisit this one more time, was the shade in Lala, and this is the one that I've had for a really long time. I just kept calling it Amaze, and I don't honestly know why, but that is Lala. I just feel like I need to correct the record. All right, my friends, that is everything. I feel like I was a little more wordy than I intended. My apologies. Sometimes that happens. I think I've told you, and let me just grab it here. I've told you everything that I have on my face with the exception of primer and mascara. And I wanted to mention the primer for sure. I'm using this Becca First Light Priming Filter. And it's supposed to like brighten and make your super sick face not look like you're all that sick. And I have to say, I really do feel like I notice a little bit of a difference. So I have to keep working with it. Sometimes I wonder if I notice a difference or if I think I notice a difference. But I really felt like it was much more brightening than what I had used yesterday. So, and then for mascara, I'm using a mascara cocktail currently. This is the Max Factor 2000 Calorie with my Light Camera Lashes from Tarte. And I think that's everything. I think I've told you everything else that's on my face. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. And in everything that you do, be beautiful. Bye.